Whenever they actually completed a certification in the Kanban, they actually immediately rush into that particular tendency of implementing Kanban. Whenever they have completed a safe agilist certification or a scaled program consultant certification, the natural human tendency is that because I gained a capability or a competency, or because I have spent a huge money and time on the certification, I want to demonstrate that particular capability.
I think that when assessment really helps.
Yeah. So, see, I actually give this particular analogy. Whenever we actually go to a doctor, right? Before we even go to the doctor and start having a conversation, generally what happens is that people will start taking the vitals, right? It could be the temperature, SpO2, the person weight, and probably the pulse rate. Okay. Why are they taking all these things? Because these things will give indicators or pointers of the health condition at that point in time.
Crux of it looks like a safe framework, right? Wherein we say when we go at a program level, we apply safe, and at a team level we apply Scrum, or it's a mix of our practices.
Yeah. So yeah, sure. See, the point here is when I actually talk about multiple teams, I actually definitely need a reference model or a framework to begin the journey.
Are you an agile coach or agile practitioner leading an agile transformation across multiple projects? How do you keep things consistent and successful and make sure each team in a program is on the same page and achieve great results, especially when each team has its own unique challenges? Today, Balaji.T, who is an expert at agile transformation and adoption, is back on the podcast by Agile Coaching Roundtable, ACRT, to talk about the ins and outs of agile transformation. Today, we are focusing on the challenges of agile transformation or adoption across multiple projects or within a program. We will discuss how to keep things consistent, aligning with business goals, and measuring success. So let's hear from Balaji, where he will share his knowledge and experience on how to make agile successful in these situations. So enjoy the episode and let's get started.
Hello Balaji, welcome back to the podcast by Agile Coaching Roundtable. It's great to see you back, given that we have received an overwhelming response from our last episode. So we thought we would do another episode with you. So welcome back to the show.
Yes, Ramya. Happy to see you all both. Hi. Gladly.
All right. So today we want to extend the conversation that we did in our last episode, right? So last episode we talked about the RFP and budgeting and the role of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, right? And for our audiences, we will link it in the icon on this video. And today we want to take it ahead, and we want to talk about the Agile transformation, right? Or Agile adoption, and whatever people try to call it, right? So let's stick to Agile transformation, calling it as an Agile transformation. So we want to understand and learn from you about this entire Agile transformation thing, because there is a lot of buzz that we hear, right? That as an Agile coaches or Scrum Master, we need to get into Agile transformation, etc., right? So maybe to begin with, how do you approach Agile transformation at a program level, especially when the program involves multiple teams with various levels of Agile maturity? By program, I mean it could be a single portfolio or a solution, or maybe it could be an account itself, right? So at that level.
Okay. So for actually in one of my particular engagement, I had actually 17 teams in that particular program. Okay. And I am the enterprise kind of a program level coach for them. So what I have actually done is, see, it is actually very difficult to do coaching consulting for all 17 teams at a time, right? I also have only 24 hours per day. So what is the method? So what is the way I actually came to know is I have actually segregated the coaching thing into something called a hard touch and something called a soft touch. Okay, soft touch means mostly focusing on a facilitation kind of a role. Hard touch means really taking training sessions, really doing coaching and consulting. So how do you segregate is that we started off actually defining the goal of the transformation, because the goal of the transformation need to be very, very, very clearly called out, because a company say ABC may be doing an agile transformation for better predictability, whereas a company called XYZ may be doing the similar agile transformation for quality issues. So the core reason for that particular agile transformation and the goal of the transformation need to be kept very clear together with the success criteria for the transformation. Okay, if not, what will happen? No, the convergence of the thoughts will be very difficult. So what I have done is, for actually one of my kind of an agile transformation somewhere in 4 to 5 years ago, I had actually 17 teams. So typically at a program level, we actually did both an agile maturity assessment and also safe implementation agile maturity assessment at a ART level. And then based on the agile maturity assessment values, we have actually segregated the teams into the soft touch and the hard touch. So for hard touch, we actually came up with some training session, more kind of a simulation workshop, and then literally trying to handhold the teams, probably in the initial iterations, okay, till the time they actually pick up the rhythm of agility. But once they actually once they actually gear up to a certain level, then we try to do that self-organizing and all. Okay. Now coming back to the soft touch teams, we actually involved more of a facilitation kind of a thing, and once in a while I actually participate in their ceremonies or cadences. Okay, this is actually point number 1. The point number 2 is, only with the team level ceremonies we cannot expect program level agility and the portfolio level agility, right? Because see, only with your product backlog refinement, the planning of the sprint, your daily DSU, and then your review retrospective, we cannot really take care of the program level constructs and the portfolio level constructs. So what I have done, I have created some custom meetings also based on the context of the engagement, something like a product owner sync up meeting, product manager sync up meeting, RTEs sync up meeting. If we have multiple trains, we cannot expect a single RTE to really coach the entire train, right? Because in a single agile release train, let's say I have 4 teams and each team have some 5 members or 7 members, we cannot really achieve, and most importantly, we cannot sustain program level agility and portfolio level agility only with our team level cadences. So what is that we have done is, we have created our own, like some of the meetings like product owner sync up, product manager sync up. Okay, every Thursday we actually used to have a ART sync up meeting. Okay, for example, right, custom art, invoicing art, shipping art, billing art, consignment art, because these are the real-time art names in that in that particular program. Because if I say art 1, art 2, art 3, it actually looks like certification material, right? So consignment art, shipping art, billing art. Okay, so custom clearance art, right? Custom clearance art is a team basically at a program level involved in actually building the custom clearance oriented applications for an international courier company or a consignment company. Okay, so once we started creating our program level cadences and portfolio level cadences, right, mapping your epic and sub-epic to the strategic theme, okay, understanding the funding model, and also coming up with a lean portfolio management concepts at a portfolio level for your dynamic budgeting, and then mapping your epics to strategic themes. In the rally, we actually create something called a investment themes, and then map it back to the EBCM concept. Okay, so the moment you start all doing these kind of activities, I think we can take a better grip at a program level and a portfolio level. Okay, and also, right, we also need to review the program level predictability measure report, not just our team level metrics, program level predictability, program level throughput, feature cycle time, feature lead time. Similarly, epic level cycle time, epic level lead time. I think the moment we start doing all these things, we can have a better grip on the landscape. Maybe I can pause here for now to have more to say.
Yes. lot of maybe maybe in terms of questions or maybe validation of thoughts over here, to start with, the two concepts or maybe the two thoughts where you said that I approach a program maybe in terms of a hard skill or maybe hard, right, in terms of maybe the touch aspect of it, right, from a coaching aspect, particular to whether I want to conduct an event or being available as a coach or as a person specialized to take care of all those things, right? Now, when you especially mentioned the hard touch aspect of trying to start with a thought process of maybe running through an agile maturity assessment at an organization level, or maybe at the account level, or maybe coming down at the program level. Now, I have a very basic question over here. I mean, to start off with, do you really think that when assessment really helps in the long run? I mean, now why I'm asking this question, maybe I'll try to give a little background about asking this question, is like people have their own thought process behind trying to validate or trying to put a question, is like, even if we run a set of assessment towards a team to assess their maturity in terms of the practices or maybe the agile maturity, to say whether it really helps them or whether it really helps in the outcome that we are looking at, right? Would you like to share your thought, maybe to begin off or to get it into the deeper of the conversation?
Yes, sure.
I exactly had the same question.
Yeah. So, see, I actually give this particular analogy. Whenever we actually go to a doctor, right, before we even go to the doctor and start having a conversation, generally what happens is that people will start taking the vitals, right? It could be the temperature, SpO2, the person weight, and probably the pulse rate. Okay. Why are they taking all these things? Because these things will give indicators or pointers of the health condition at that point in time. But logical people tell, okay, but still after that you still need to go and meet the doctor. We need to tell the problem and then do some consultation. I fully agree that any kind of an assessment will not cover all the aspects or dimensions of the team, for a very simple reason that the word all itself is always expanding. We don't have a boundary to it. But then the point is, generally a seasoned agile coach or a highly experienced agile coach will actually doing the assessment from multiple areas. Okay, certain parameters on the product space of agility, certain parameters on the agile process mechanism, and certain aspects pertaining to the technical agility of the team, certain parameters on the team dynamics, certain aspects on the communication and the stakeholder engagement aspect at a program level. So the point to be kept in mind is, assessment is the beginning of the journey to have better conversations and discussions. And then one more point is, this particular assessment questionnaire also need to be periodically revisited. Okay, it actually should not happen that some guy created a questionnaire 5 years back in the organization and still that organization is using that particular old questionnaire to do the assessment. Absolutely no. Once in 3 months or once in 4 months, based on the feedback from the team, we also need to continuously go to the assessment parameters, and then we need to customize it, we need to contextualize it so that it is more personalized to that particular ecosystem or the context. So from my experience, I definitely give a lot of importance to agile maturity assessments. But the only thing which we need to keep in mind is, we need to socialize that particular assessment parameters to the team before the call. Right? See, Yeah, so what I used to do when I was an agile coach at a program level long back is I actually used to set up a pre-call session for the assessment. Okay, let's say by next week we are actually doing an assessment. By this week itself, 30 minutes I will set up pre-call session, and then I will walk through the assessment questions and then set them the context. Why are we doing what are we doing? And then if we go and do the assessment, okay, people are also kept informed on what parameters. If not, suddenly if I get into your room and then do the assessment, no, then guys will think, hey, who is this guy coming and doing assessment for our team, right? So those psychological aspects also need to be taken care. If we do all these things, definitely assessment is a good place to begin the journey, because my 30 days, 60 days, 90 days coaching plan is fundamentally created based on the assessment outcome and also based on the agile transformation roadmap in the place.
Correct. I absolutely agree with you, Balaji. The point, I think, why people say that the assessments or the maturity assessments won't work or not suitable is that people think that it's a templatized kind of a maturity assessment, which all of us have been using time immemorial, and same thing we are just rubbing off with each team, right? So that is one reason. Second reason could be with the name as Agile Maturity Assessment, right? Maybe if we try to call it with some other name, maybe it could be swallowed well with other agilists, right? So I think you call whatever you feel is right? But then I think as a starting point, this is the same analogy I try to give, that if you go to the doctor, obviously the thorough medical examination is always recommended, but to understand the correct point that the patient has come up with, right? Come to you with, at least having the diagnosis at that particular kind of a maybe pain area should be the starting point, right? And with that pain area, if we try to dig deeper, is when we would already say that, okay, now this point or diagnosis at this particular pain area is not enough. Maybe you may want to go into the deeper examination. So we will definitely, as an agile coaches, will come to that point where we need a deeper analysis, right? But then to begin with,
Correct.
Where do we start, right? What is the starting point? For that purpose, the agile maturity assessment, or whatever we may want to call, right? Or maybe agile adoption assessment, that would be required. And another point that I wanted to understand is, you mentioned about having different cadences, right? You mentioned about different arts, you mentioned about different sync-ups, right? The crux of it looks like a safe framework, right? So is it so? I mean, this is for the people who are like at a beginner level, right? So is it the case wherein we say when we go at a program level, we apply SAFe, and at a team level we apply Scrum, or it's a mix of our practices? Because you also mentioned that you customize the cadences, right, here and there, which are not part of the SAFe. So would you like to talk about that?
Yeah. So yeah, sure. See, the point here is when I actually talk about multiple teams, I actually definitely need a reference model or a framework to begin the journey. Okay. So from my perspective, once I completed my SAFe certification and once I completed my scaled program consultant certification in 2018 or 17 time frame, those particular certifications gave me a very good thinking process. Okay, if I wanted to, some kind of a thinking process, some kind of a direction. See, the word English meaning customize means something need to be there for you to mold it or amend it, right? Only then the meaning suits better. Customization is you are not going to create something new. You need to have a base material on top of which you will do some kind of a changes to it based on the fit for purpose on the context. So the moment I completed my safe and safe certifications, and once I started implementing safe in couple of engagements, I got that capability that okay, if I need to create a customized agile framework also, the budding seed came from safe. Okay, I'm not saying people that you need to blindly copy the practices of a safe. However, you need to understand the principles of safe. Safe has some principles, right? You need to do an integrated system demo at a logical juncture. Those principles need to be kept in mind. And for example, right, let me give a practical example. Now, if I'm not ensuring the definition of a ready at a feature level, and if I'm not ensuring the definition of a ready at a epic level, then how I can actually refine the epic and then continuously generate the readiness of the backlog at a portfolio level, program level. Suddenly the team level backlog will not contain entries to be filled, right? Because the parenting comes from the features, and features are parented to a epic or theme or whatever you call, depending upon the nomenclature of the tool. Because Jira uses a different nomenclature, Rally has a different nomenclature, ServiceNow has something else. But then the funda is, unless and until proper homework and readiness is being ensured at a portfolio level and at a program level, suddenly your product backlog will not get filled with full of user stories, right? So I think these are the things which we need to keep in mind. Okay, so just to give one small example, right? I actually generally tell people, okay guys, now actually couple of people are coming to your home as a guest. Okay, so how many hours you will do planning? Generally people tell we will do planning for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Now I will ask the person, let's say for a function, 45 people are actually going to come to your home and they are going to be there for a week for some function in the home. So generally people will tell, hey, no, then we need to do an extensive planning for it, extensive planning for a couple of hours at least, because larger the people, larger is the need, larger is the time taken to create an alignment, right? And also take care of the prerequisites. Similarly, only with my team level ceremonies, I cannot have that particular coordination, communication, collaboration across multiple team of teams. So we need some program level cadences and portfolio level cadences, and SAFE is one of the reference framework or a model which you can use. It's not that we are going to copy paste it as it is for sure.
Okay, so maybe the next thought process, maybe in continuity to what you maybe some way address the answer, but maybe to be more specific or to precise, since you spoke about customizing the frameworks or looking into different dimensions of the frameworks and making use of it, what makes sense. When you talk about transformations, right, and how do you choose and pick a framework, and how do you tailor it as per the needs of the problem, and how the basic question is, how do you come to a conclusion that we need to use so and so framework to solve a problem?
All right, so before I start answering this particular question, let me take a pause to tell something. First of all, in some real-time engagements, like it is always better to first of all decide whether Agile will suit for this engagement or not. Okay. Unfortunately, companies are not doing it. Unfortunately, most of the companies are not doing it. They are actually literally carried away by the wind. Okay. But then if you are actually looking to the PMI Agile Practice Guide, okay, we do have PMI's Agile Practice Guide. It actually clearly says there is something called a Agile Suitability Filter. Okay, I'm not actually talking about maturity. I'm using the word suitability. Okay, so what does that concept says is, based on certain parameters, first of all, we need to see whether this project can be executed in an adaptive based approach. Okay, Agile is an adaptive based approach, whereas waterfall model is a predictive model. So my say here is, before we jump onto the framework, one need to be cognizant about to what extent we can use predictability and to what extent we can use adaptability in this particular project or engagement. Okay, now let's say we have done that justice. and we have agreed that yes, we are going to execute it in an agile manner. The point is simple. First of all, we need to list down certain parameters, right? Let's say from some 12 to 15 parameters, and then I will make a check. What are all the parameters which is being supported by which particular framework? Just to give an example, just to give one of the real-time example, if my client says I need to have a cadence at a portfolio level, then I cannot go for a Spotify framework. Why? Spotify doesn't talk explicitly at a portfolio level. Spotify talks about your tribe, your guild, chapter, all these concepts are fine. But Spotify as a framework does not talk anything at a portfolio level, anything at a budgeting level under. So what we have done, we have taken the best practices from the SAFE framework, we have taken the best practices from the Spotify framework, and then we have blended a custom model called the SPOTI-SAFE framework. So if you go to Google, if you go to Google and then try reading SPOTI-SAFE framework, my own article from the LinkedIn will actually pop up, wherein I have written how is that we have created a SPOTI-SAFE framework for actually one of our prospect or a client, because the client wanted a tribe or a guild kind of an autonomous team, but on top of it, the client is also saying that we need a flexibility in our budgeting. We need to fund the value streams. So I think if we keep hearing to the client's pulse, then we need to map it back to the capabilities provided by the framework and then take a choice. So for that, one need to be very good in multiple frameworks first of all, right? For you to make a decision, you need to know what is there in the plate. So you need to be good in different frameworks, pros and cons of each of the frameworks. Only then, based on the context, you can tell, okay, if my client wants something like a lean portfolio management, I can go for SAFE. But then hold on, the client is not really interested in building an agile release train, solution train, and all. So why don't they take the best principle from Spotify and combine it with SAFE? And then I will create a custom framework called the SPOTI-SAFE model. Just to give one simple example here.
Absolutely. And well said, Balaji. And to be honest, if you ask my opinion as well, in terms of strategic funding, right? Funding the value stream, having the guardrails in terms of funding, right? These are the concepts that SAFE provides best, right? Because since I have done certain certifications in SAFE, I know that these concepts exist, right? If you have to go back and fall back to something called as Nexus framework, or maybe Scrum framework, or maybe even Spotify framework, we don't have such kind of a concept, and that's where people as in Scrum Masters and Agile coaches lie in abstraction, right? As in, how do we approach this? If you, as an Agile coach, have to guide or maybe coach teams in using the strategic funding, we will have to fall back to SAFE to refer what that exactly that concept is all about. Then maybe you may want to customize certain things in that area and put it to use based upon your own context, right? So I also do a similar setup wherein pick up different aspects of different frameworks and put it to use. And that's where we say it's an agnostic, right? You're not particularly putting a finger and saying that this is what this framework is all about and one particular framework that you're following, right? It's a mix and match of different frameworks that are suiting your own context and making sense to you, right? And But then
one point to consider here is, pragmatically, in a real-time IT engagement, much of the Scrum Masters, product owners, and Agile coaches are taken inside the program or the project after everything has been finalized.
Correct.
Okay, so what happens is that not only the methodology of executing the software, even the framework is also been finalized, the tools is also been finalized. So what happens is that one need to know how to play the game within the constraints of the ecosystem, because if there are no constraints, anyone can play the game, right? So the point what I was trying to say is, maybe a Scrum Master or an RTE or an Agile coach should first prove their value in the project, because as soon as they come, As soon as they come, pragmatically, as soon as they come, and if you start doing suggestions, no one is going to listen to you, because life is not that easy and very straightforward. First, so when I was working as an RTE, it has taken literally 2 to 2.5 months to build that rapport and to pick up the momentum and to really prove my capabilities within the available means. And once I take my client on my side, and a single mail from client or a customer can even turn the table. Okay. And a single mail from client saying, hey, Balaji has actually done this work and it's a great, fabulous work. Then believe me, all my delivery managers, delivery head, program manager, that guy, this guy, everyone will start listening to me. So the point what I'm trying to say is, people should not get demotivated that you have taken inside the project at a bit later point in time. First, try to be in the ecosystem, build some rapport, prove your value within the available means. Then the gate will open for you to higher pedestals. So just wanted to call it out explicitly.
No, absolutely. That's making absolute sense. And similar things, whenever I go to projects and try to maybe do certain things, right? And the typical answer that I get is, client will not agree. So this is the very first thing that I say is, you don't have to convince client. That is my job. Let me talk to client, understand their problem. Let me also talk to you, and kind of we can sit together, collaboratively understand what will work over here in this scenario, and we will try to fix things up, right? It's not that we are beating one and each other, saying that no, this is not done or this is how it should be done. It's a collaborative effort, right? And I am really happy that you have put up this thing, because many of the Scrum Masters or Agile coaches will be relating to this point. When you say that they are put up in a setup and they don't have any authority to change certain things, and then they say that no, this is not working for me. This is all happens in an ideal scenario, right? So thank you for putting that out explicitly. And I remember in our last conversation, you talked about aligning our agile transformation outcomes with the business outcomes, right? So I would want you to explain or maybe talk about how do you ensure that agile transformations are aligned with the overall business objectives and outcomes?
Yeah, sure. So what really happens at a leadership level coaching, or when I actually get into executive level coaching and all, we actually typically begin their journey by understanding what is the OKR, what is the KRA, and then predominantly what are the systemic issues in that particular in that particular landscape. So whether we call it as a OKR, or we have one more concept called the GQM, goal, question, metrics. You have a goal and you establish a question to connect the goal to the metrics or the measurement. So when I talk about OKRs and an outcome based approach, right, I actually like to classify it into two types. One is the agile outcome and second is the business outcome, as we know. Now, what actually happens is, agile outcome is a means to the end state of a better business outcome. Right? So agile outcome could be like predictability, your productivity, which is your throughput value, compression in the lead time, compression in the cycle time, improvement in the flow efficiency, reduction in the technical debt, because only when technical debt comes down, quality is going to improve. These are all the agile outcomes. When it comes to business outcomes, improvement in the product brand index, improvement in the CSAT value, improvement in the NPS value, improvement in the revenue margin. See, just to put a humorous side to it, you can take all the positive adjectives and then put it over there. All these things any client wants. No client or customer will say, I actually don't want a predictability in Balaji, I don't want a productivity, I don't want quality. Irrespective of any transformation, be it a digital transformation, agile transformation, business transformation, rules of the game are not going to change by and large from an outcome perspective. Of course, the systemic issue and the constraints and the context could change. So, what I'm trying to say is, in much of my engagements, we created something called as an outcome-based plan to do an agile transformation. By the by, this particular outcome-based plan came from the leading Agile consulting group. Okay, and I was fortunate enough to work with the CEO of that particular organization called Mike Kotmer. So if you go to Google and then search Mike Kotmer, it will clearly tell he is the founder and the CEO of a leading Agile consulting group. So somewhere in 2018 and 19, myself and one more guy, we had that opportunity to get into continuous daily calls with Mike Kotmer directly to formulate an Agile transformation strategy for actually one of our clients. So I think the budding seed of creating all these things came from them. Okay, but then I have taken it, I have imbibed it, and then based on my experience, I have customized it and then contextualized it. So just to cut a long story short, your Agile outcomes typically operate at the development value stream or also called as a product value stream, whereas your business outcome is going to operate at a customer value stream or also called as an operational value stream. But then the point is you cannot directly touch the operational value stream without doing justice and due diligence to the development value stream. Okay, I think these are the points which we need to keep in mind whenever we are creating an outcome-based approach to the transformation.
Wow. So maybe again, extending to this conversation, when we talk about the different value streams or what are the things that we can measure over here, so the problem that comes into this kind of a situation is like having some kind of a structure where we are trying to align the development stream and we are also trying to align the operational stream together over here. And the challenge that comes into picture over here is what kind of governance structure that we can bring in so that we ensure that one, the business outcomes are also measured, and then we are also trying to measure, as you said, right, the agile outcomes becomes an enabler for you, right, to measure your business outcomes. So is there some kind of a governance structure that we can bring in to map this two together so that eventually we get to see the overall outcomes that we are looking at?
Yes. So see, one point to be kept in mind is many of the companies, or rather much of the companies, typically bigger companies, will have their own some kind of a governance mechanism in place or a framework in the place. Now the point to be kept in mind is whenever I'm doing an agile transformation, how am I going to factor that particular regulatory mechanism, that particular compliance? Okay, let me just tell a simple example. For actually one of my teams, right from the beginning days, right, in the Confluence pages, we actually created something called as a team space, project space, and a product space. Okay, three pages. One is called a team space, which is going to contain the team charter, working agreement, the team norms, all those aspects. And also the team space will contain some of the dynamics of the team, some team level metrics, measurements, their KPI, goal sheets, blah, blah, blah. And when you go to project space, it is going to contain your agile release planning, your high level milestones to reach, countries impacted, channels impacted, those aspects. And in the product space, we are going to create a high level product roadmap. What are all the quarterly priorities on the roadmap? So governance, from my perspective, should not be seen as a very separate activity. We may need to take a continual approach rather than a very discrete activity at the end of the funnel. Typically in a highly regulated environments like for banking, BFSI and healthcare, all those domains, right? I think agile coaches also need to interact with the functional SMEs and other domain experts to at least know the meaning of certain terms. Say, for example, GDPR. We have something called the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. And we have something called the SOX compliance, right? And you also have a FATCA, JATCA, whenever you are working on a BFSA domain. So the point to be kept in mind is when you're creating your definition of done, you also factor your governance, you also factor your compliance as part of the regulatory mechanism. Okay, which is actually point number one. Now, even when you consider SAFe as the framework, right? SAFe SAFE clearly says my cost of delay, COD, is a combination of a business value, my time criticality, plus risk reduction or opportunity enablement. So all these compliance, governance, regulatory mechanisms are factored in the risk reduction. If not, when your audit goes for a toss, there actually could be a huge penalty to the company, and the share value of the company comes down in the market. So when it comes to this regulatory mechanism, yes, an agile coach can create a process framework to it, but we still need to collaborate with the functional SMEs and also with the domain experts. Only then we can call it out holistically. That's my view.
Absolutely. And why not, right? I mean, if you're saying that we are doing an agile transformation or a business transformation, and we are going there as a change agents or maybe as a consultants or as coaches, we have to consider all the aspects or all the teams or departments that are involved to run that entire product or a solution or a project, right, or a program. So we cannot discount anyone saying no, that those people are not part of our development value stream, or they are not part of actual development work, right? We need to cater into all the departments that are working in tandem to deliver something as a value to the customer, right? And this is one of the things that I always tell Scrum Masters, that we need to understand project management, we need to understand the governance, we need to understand the operations. As much as we say that the Scrum Masters or an Agile coaches must be technical, we should also have an understanding of these kind of aspects as well. Otherwise, it would be difficult for us to be in a space wherein we are just working at the facilitation level or at a team level, right? So when we get into the real work in terms of agile transformation or adoption, we have to hold hands of these different departments and work together, right? And I really appreciate that you calling these things out, because these are the things I feel most of the practitioners miss on, right? And maybe to conclude this conversation, because I know that it would be too heavy of a conversation for our audiences to even digest at this point, right? So maybe as a concluding point, last time you spoke about your Agile Mentorship Program, right? And obviously, I had visited your website to check on what all kind of services or maybe the teachings that you provide to the community, right? Can you talk about this aspect of agile transformation kind of a thing that you provide, so that people who wants to reach out to you can also learn directly from you, right?
Yes. So I just want to give one simple analogy or an example here. So I brought this particular rubber band. Okay. See, actually so what actually happens in the industry is, let us now assume that I'm actually drawing a graph with four quadrants, right? I have a y-axis, I have a x-axis. So you have 4 quadrants over there. See, now if you are taking that particular x-axis, let us say one of the point is called the predictability. Okay, one end of the line is called predictability, the other end of the line is called adaptability. Okay, now from the y-axis, you can actually take it as a internal to the organization, and the other point as a external to the market. Okay, so one is predictability, adaptability. Y-axis is internal to the organization, and the other point is the market rhythm or external to the market. So the funda is, be it an agile transformation or be it a digital transformation or any kind of a strategic transformation, all that we are trying to do is, you take your team or your team of teams or your organization from one of this particular quadrant to some other quadrant, right? You have your predictability, like you have your predictability, you have your adaptability, and then you have something called as a divergence and a convergence. All that you are trying to do is, you are trying to take your teams from the current state of existence to a better state of existence, right? So in my Agile Mentorship Program, typically at a level 1 Agile Mentorship mentorship program, I'm actually teaching people pragmatically how I created an OKR driven product roadmap, how I created an OKR driven agile transformation roadmap, how I created an outcome based plan to not only do the transformation but also to sustain agility at that level, because what is the guarantee that they will not fall down from the present level? Okay, and then together with some concepts in organization change management, different frameworks, metrics, dashboards. So, and I also take continuously feedback from my existing mentees who have completed that particular that particular mentorship program from me, and then I keep continuously adding more recordings and more value to the existing course. That is how I do, generally speaking.
Wow, I mean, it's so nice that you gave that example using x-axis and y-axis.
Yep.
So it is making even more sense. I think we would link your website in the description so that people can have a look at it and learn directly from you. And thank you so much, Balaji, for coming over and doing this podcast yet again. And I'm sure this is going to be another most viewed podcast. And the more we talk to you and learn from you, the more we feel that, okay, we want to cover another topic next. So if time permits and if people like this podcast, then definitely we would want to do another podcast with you on another deeper topic, right? So for now, thank you so much for coming over and doing this podcast.
Yeah, sure. So probably I can give some closure thoughts for this particular video.
Absolutely.
And then we can wind up. Okay, so based on my pragmatic approach, right? I have seen some of the people have this particular mentality. Whenever they actually completed a certification in a Kanban, they actually immediately rush into that particular tendency of implementing Kanban. Whenever they have completed a safe agilist certification or a scaled program consultant certification, the natural human tendency is that because I gained a capability or a competency, or because I have spent a huge money and time on the certification, I want to demonstrate that particular capability. But then the point to be kept in mind is the fit for purpose matters. Okay, so whenever though I do have 14 or 15 agile certifications, I actually never begin the conversation by talking about agile. I actually begin the conversation with my executives and with my counterparts there by talking about the challenges and the pain points. Guys, where do you need my help? Is it in terms of dependency management, or in terms of better release management processes, or you wanted me to have some collaboration with the architect and the technology experts to build a DevOps pipeline, or you wanted some kind of a help in building a governance framework for you? What are all your top 3 or 4 pain points? And where do you need my help as an improvement enabler in the journey? You call me as an agile consultant or as an agile coach or an executive coach, all those things are secondary. I am there as an improvement enabler for you in the journey. So one of my suggestion to the budding agile coaches and scrum masters and RTEs and project or program managers in the world of agile is, just because the topic is agile transformation doesn't mean that we should jump on to implementing agile even without understanding the fit for purpose and what are the systemic issues in the landscape. So please spend some time by having conversation with your client to really understand the pain point. Then come back to your concepts or whatever you know, and then look into the fit for purpose, and also respect the organizational constraints also. Then jump on to your transformation. If not, probably the transformations may not sustain in the long run. So just thought to keep that point in the mind.
Absolutely true. And as you mentioned, right, Balaji, understand the constraint of the ecosystem and then go ahead with your approach. So thanks for sharing that thoughts. And on a closing note, this was really wonderful conversation again. Doing this with you. We really enjoy having this conversation because it's always insightful. One, and also second is like you always bring in a more practical approach towards a problem rather than not more of a bookish term. Obviously, it helps to start with the theory concept, but again, eventually what is more important is trying to be more relatable to the practical approach, and that brings in a different approach to the conversation, right? So thank you so much for doing this for us, and we really enjoyed it. And as Ramya mentioned, we'll definitely love to have one more conversation with you again in future.
Sure.
But for now, thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thank you so much for watching this episode patiently till the end. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll meet you again in the next episode. Till then, if you like our podcast show, then do like, share, subscribe, and let us know your feedback in the comment section. You can also listen to the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. Thank you.